Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Yesterday was a great day. Had my niece over, and we played 9 games of Settlers of Catan. I highly recommend that game. So it might be my favorite game right now. And so we play it quite often with some friends of ours on Sunday nights. And it's a great strategy game, and I enjoy winning. And the great thing about last night is we played 9 games. I won 4. I won the most. I'm pretty sure I'm bragging, and that's not good, but hey, I won 4 games. Um, this is my cup for today. It is my alumni mug from when I graduated from the AGTS, Assemblies of God Theological Seminary. That was a couple years ago, and that's my mug for today. For the longest time, I was not a fan of flying. I actually am at a point where I actually enjoy flying, and as a matter of fact, I have kind of been itching to go on a trip. But for the longest time, I would not fly, and missed funerals, missed weddings, missed all kinds of things because I had a fear of flying, and a lot of it had to do with something called control. It didn't matter that I was much more likely to get into a car accident. I just didn't like that I didn't control the plane. And I have no problem driving, even though I know that there's always the risk. But if there's that issue of control, and in this season, I've been thinking about that idea. Watching people's responses, watching people's reactions to things says a lot about who they are in relation to trying to control their lives, trying to control things, when maybe God is calling them to a place of surrender. And so in James 4, and I was thinking about this the other night because in our Bible study, I read this passage. It says James 4, verses, I believe, 13 through 17. It says, "Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, we will spend a year there and carry on business and make money." And then it goes on to say, "Why do you not even know what will happen? Why do you, who do not even know what will happen tomorrow? What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it's the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is a sin for them." And so James has been talking a lot about a number of issues, the tongue, fighting and quarreling, why we tend to do what we do. And here he says so many of us boast over our plans and our schemes, and we boast of our ability to control our own lives, essentially. And James goes so far as to call this kind of boasting and arrogance evil. And I thought that was a pretty powerful term, and it says a lot. And you really think about evil things tend to be things that are not good or right or just. And so often we kind of have made evil this mystical word, and it's just things that aren't good. And the reality is, our attempts to so desperately control our lives, the Bible says, maybe it isn't always the best thing. Control and surrender are two great battles that we face. God calls us to surrender, and we want control. And so in this season, it's challenged many of our issues of control. Some hide their control behind religious language, right? We've seen pastors that try to justify their actions and say they heard from God, and I would simply argue that perhaps they didn't. Perhaps maybe they're more worried about trying to hold on to some control that they don't have in this moment. So they hide behind certain ideologies. And, renegade mindsets often aren't biblical, they're disobedient. And so we begin to realize that maybe is my response coming from the heart of God? Of course, we always have to ask that. And when I believe that I'm hearing from God, is it really just me trying to use the idea of God speaking to continue to control? Or am I truly allowing myself to be surrendered to God and what He's doing, even when I don't always like it or even at times agree with it? There's a clear difference between fighting for what is right and trying to get your own way. Most of us know the difference. Sometimes it seems like we don't. If you're prone to give in to fighting back all the time or lending conspiracy theories and reading into things, it might be you have an issue of surrender. Not an issue of surrender to other people or things, but maybe ultimately what God's trying to do. Did you ever think that maybe in the big picture of things, God ultimately wants you to simply trust Him? You ever wonder why some have a hard time with control? The Bible talks about a few reasons: pride and arrogance. Who are they to think that they can tell me what to do? Who are they to, clearly they must be up to something. Underlying some of that is issues of pride and arrogance. And God never calls that to be in our hearts. Now, ideologically, there's a number of things I don't agree with what's happening. Some things I get why it's happening. I get the back and forth, but at some point, where do I need to examine my heart and make sure that it's really reflecting the heart of Christ in this matter? Or is there maybe some issues in me that I need to deal with? It also reflects simply the issues of trust. They have an issue with not being in control, and ultimately it reflects the lack of trust in God. Some have tried to use this season as to say that they're somehow trying to persecute the church. The reality is none of us have been stopped from worshiping at all. We're just not able to do things as we want to, simply as we like. Really, many of us, the issue is we've been robbed of our convenience. And so it becomes potentially an issue of trust. And think about it. If your basic issue is that you don't trust God in these matters when things aren't easy, what is that against saying about what you need to do in your life when things aren't always in your control? I like what one pastor said yesterday. A friend of mine shared a video and he goes, I don't understand this. I don't even know if I agree with all of it and with all that's happening. He goes, there's a part of me that wants to fight back. But he goes, in prayer, he believed that God had told him to simply surrender and to trust him. And he goes, this wasn't an easy thing for me to do because my nature wants to fight back. So where's God calling you to surrender today? Where's God calling you to trust him? Where are you desperately trying to fight for control when God is calling you to trust him and to surrender? You guys have a great Friday. We'll see you all later. Hopefully you can join us for Search on Sunday. Bye.